Is it possible to break through childhood traumas, depression, or anxiety? The short answer is yes. If you would like to know how, or if you would like to know why you didn't or why you couldn't break through yet, please stick with me to the end because I will share with you lots of valuable information. I grew up in a dysfunctional family, and really early on I developed depression and anxiety. I started when I was a little kid. I already started hurting myself. I couldn't handle my parents fighting. And later on, when I became a teenager and young adult, I couldn't handle my personal life, my relationships, and I became really depressed. I was suicidal. I hurt myself so many times. I hit my head into the wall with full strength. I also burned myself, my arms, my thighs, with a match because the pain in my heart was so deep. I just wanted to numb somehow with physical pain. I bite myself and I scratched myself. I also pulled my hair out. I had so much pain. You can see my hair. That's why it's so thin, because it started when I was a little kid. I started pulling my hair out. I had lots of anxiety attack. I was shaking, trembling, collapsed on the floor. I couldn't breathe properly, and I cried uncontrollably. I couldn't stop. And this happened to me for so long, almost 15 years. I had panic attacks. I didn't want to get out of bed. I was suffering. I was crying almost every day. I spent the majority of time in this depression and anxiety. My relationship didn't work. I couldn't function well. As I was suicidal, I ended up at the psychiatrist. Unfortunately, I had to take medications, and that made me so numb. I was like a zombie. I felt dizzy all the time. I couldn't really function. I couldn't really think straight. And after a while, I was thinking, enough is enough. They couldn't help me. I had to go to the therapist, but I couldn't change myself. Nothing changed in my life. I felt so numb. After a while, I was thinking I was empty, like I have no feelings at all. Have you been in this situation ever? Why couldn't I break through? And why can't you break through? Why are you suffering so long? Really important to understand that our brain is like a computer, like a supercomputer. We have about 50 to 70,000 of thoughts every single day. And most of them are really negative. Imagine that you are a gardener. When you plant a tomato seed, you will always harvest tomatoes, right? When you plant it and they will grow, there is not only one piece of tomato. There are hundreds and hundreds over the season. And you just planted one single seed. This is true with our mind and our thoughts. If you have a thought, that's like a seed. Whatever you put into your head, that will grow. If you have negative thoughts, you will reap negative results. If you have positive thoughts, you will reap positive results. And remember, you always reap more than you planted. So if you are in depression, or if you have a really bad situation in your life, circumstances, maybe you are in a bad marriage, relationships, or you had a really bad childhood, you had some trauma in your life, then when you are thinking about them, you are planting seeds into your mind. And of course, if they are negative, because you're thinking about the negative past, you are planting these negative seeds. And remember, every single day we have 50 to 70,000 thoughts, and most of them are really subconscious. We don't really think about what we think about. And that's why it's really dangerous. That's why we don't know what's going on in our life. We don't know why we cannot change. But the simple answer is how we think. When we have a negative thoughts, our brain sends a message to our body and we will act according to. When we have a negative thought, that will trigger us and we have feelings. Just think about when you watched a really sad movie, when somebody died, maybe a little kid or maybe a horse or a dog. Did you cry? Or maybe you saw a movie and that was a happy ending. The people came together after lots of struggles and you felt happy. Or maybe you watched a scary movie. That was just a movie, but while you were watching, you felt this fear. You were scared. Why? This didn't really happen to you. That was just in a movie, on a screen. This is how our brain works. When we have negative thoughts, we see pictures in our brain. And these pictures create emotions. It creates feelings. So that's why it's really important what comes into your brain, into your mind. And it's really important what you are listening to or what you are watching to. So if you have 50 to 70,000 of thoughts, but most of them are negative, just think about, we don't just thinking about negative things. So I don't say you were thinking 50,000 negative thoughts, but I am sure most of us think really negatively. And if you just think about a couple of thousands of negative thoughts about yourself, maybe you say about yourself, you are worthless, you are not good enough, you are a bad husband, bad wife, you are worthless, you are just trash. Maybe somebody else told to you. Maybe you are in relationship with a narcissist. I had been there 20 years ago, and that was a nightmare. I felt like I was nobody. I felt so hopeless. I was sowing these seeds into my mind, but I didn't know, because when I woke up in the morning, my thoughts were full with negative thoughts already. My mind was full with negative thoughts. I was thinking what happened last night. I was thinking about the fight. I was thinking about how hurt I was and how life unfair to me. I was thinking about why God doesn't help me. I was thinking, I'm praying lots of hours and even I was fasting, but nothing helped in my life. I always asked help from people and they tried to help me, but nothing helped. I was thinking, I tried everything, but nothing works. Have you ever felt this way? But the good news is we can change the situations. But first we have to be aware about our thoughts. I give you some exercises, and if you want to change your life, if you really want to stop this miserable life and you're willing to do the work, your life can change drastically. Your life can transform completely. My life had changed completely. And I am so grateful. But how? How did I do? To understand how I did, you have to understand that most of the time when we are in a depression or we have anxiety or we are in a really bad relationships, we find the excuses why we are how we are. When I went to the doctor and they diagnosed me like I have depression, then I always said when I was miserable and I wasn't able to get up in the morning, I was crying all the time, that's normal, I'm in depression. And the doctor said blah, 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 blah. And I told them what the doctor said. Also, there are many people who said, yes, I understand, you had a childhood trauma. and maybe you never ever will be healthy again mentally. These are negative words. They are negative seeds that planted into my mind. And if you have same situation or same excuses, even if it's justified or not, then you planting these negative thoughts into your mind, negative beliefs. I always felt sorry for myself. Most of the time I blame my parents, especially my mother. I was blaming her. I didn't want to born, and I born into this world, and my life is just miserable. Nobody loves me. I'm worthless. I'm not capable to do anything. I'm stupid. I'm a sheep. Because somebody in my family called me sheep. I always said, I try to control my mind, but I cannot. My mind is just thinking about what happened in my childhood, what happened later on. Later on, I married to the narcissist, and my life turned upside down again. I was praying a lot, and I didn't understand why my life is just so miserable. Where is God? Why God didn't help me? So I was blaming God. And even I was blaming God about why he let me to marry that person. I was blaming God why I born into that family. Why God let me suffer that much? That's not fair. I told God all the time, this is not fair. Why me? Why did it happen to me? And I turned away from him. When there was opportunity to change, I always said, I can't. It's just so scary. I always try to find new ways, maybe new therapy. Later on, when I became a Christian, I went to the Christian therapist, Christian counselors, and I went for prayers. I always ask for some help, or I try to somehow be around people who were praying, and I was thinking maybe somebody can pray that way, just suddenly will change my life. When somebody told me how could I change my life, or when I read the Bible and the Bible said change your thoughts, we had to change our thoughts. Started listening to Bible studies, and they talked about the affirmation, Christian affirmations. Then what I read in a Bible, I didn't really practice in my life. Yes, I knew that I have to renew my mind and I have to become a new creation, and I knew this, but I didn't do anything with that because I didn't feel that way. I didn't feel to think positive. And one thing I always realize when I have negative thoughts and I really try to focus to change to positive, that's lasted only just for a couple of seconds. Couple of seconds. Have you been there? When you were finally, okay, I will change, I want to think positively, positive things, positive thoughts. And after a couple of seconds, you just went back where you were. And in your head, you had again negative self-talk, and you just started over and over again. And you felt exhausted because you tried again, and after a couple of seconds, you feel like, I cannot believe I'm again there, my thoughts again about my ex, about my childhood. So what happened? I realized that nothing changed in my life, and I was so upset. One day I went to the counselor and I wanted a prayer because I was in an urgent need. I was suffering really bad. I had a really bad argument with my ex-husband and I just needed a prayer. I wanted to change. I didn't want to live this miserable Christian life. But what happened? This counselor that day wasn't free. And she told me, I don't have time for this today. She turned me off. And I was devastated. I was angry. I was upset. I was thinking nobody cares. But that day, I got a light bulb moment. I was thinking, nobody is there when I need them. This wasn't true because so many times people were there praying for me. But have you ever found yourself in the same situation with the same problem? you went to people and asked for prayer or help or advice. And that was like a pill. Even not a pill, it's almost like a band-aid on a headache. You just try to solve the problem really quickly. You wanted a quick fix. But nothing changed in your life. And the next day you find yourself in the same hamster wheel and you were suffering and you had the same symptoms and same problem. You went to the other person asking for prayers and you told the same story over and over again. Just imagine that the last couple of months or years or decades, how many times did you tell your story? How many times did you tell that I'm scared? I was in a dysfunctional family. I'm in a really bad relationship. Nobody loves me. How many times did you tell this? I'm pretty sure you shared this hundreds and hundreds of times, maybe thousands of times over the years. If you just think about every day, you had these thousands and thousands of thoughts. You had this negative self-talk, and doesn't matter if you talk to yourself or you talk to other people. But every single time when you share with someone or you think about that, you wire this memory into your subconscious mind deeper and deeper. Is it scary? It is scary. It is super scary. Especially when you think one single negative thought will spread like a weed. And if you have thousands and thousands of negative thoughts, and you think, okay, I have to change to positive, and you have just like one little seed, positive thoughts, that's just one little seed. And you already had thousands and thousands of weed around this one positive seed. What do you think? What will happen with this positive seed? This negative seed, the weed will kill it. Just like in a garden. If you don't take care of the garden and you have a tomato plant, the weeds will kill your plant. What can we do? This is for today. We will continue with part 2 soon. Please come back because this video series can change your life forever.